China is still not buying any beans from the US, and the market reaction right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So we are here again with Jerry Gidel, and Jerry, let's go right on to the market issues. The corn and soybeans are up to today on Friday, and China is still not coming back to the U.S. for soybean purchases. I think the market has priced some of that, and yet the fact that the U.S. would harvest less corn than previously thought.
Right, right. Well, this week we've uh, got more of private forecasters and people like that out. There's a couple of them I've kind of thought I'd see this week, haven't shown up at this point, and that. But in general, the combination of the weather we've had uh, and the disease issues, which really has got a lot more excitement in these markets, and that pulling down the potential yields across the Midwest and more people pointing to the same issue, some of the issues here that was kind of in Illinois and parts of Iowa. Seems like it's even in Nebraska now, where we've got some more of the same uh, rust issues on the leaves, and we've had some tar spot on the stalks and things like that. Even there was a new fella. I can't say that I've recognized him in the past uh, from McClure Traders and that put out some estimates, which were pretty impressive here. It looked like a lot of work was put into it, nice graphics, things like that. The corn number he came up with was even lower than 180 bushels, 197.7. That and then on the bean side, his number was 52.1 versus the USDA's 53.6. The interesting thing about these kinds of numbers at this point, since the USDA is still only going to be utilizing producer expectations and their yields and that, and the probability of, since they're only going to be counting ears and stocks and their survey, and also on the beans, just a basic count out there. There's not going to be any kind of yield expectations or good examinations of what the things are in the field. I would have to be a little cautious that we're going to have that kind of yield being reported to us here uh, on the 12th of this month. So it's
Yeah,
these.
what about the demand side? Do you think China is going to get back to the soybean market?
Well, you look at the statistics around the world and that they really do seem like that uh, they're going to have some type of purchases to bridge themselves because you really don't end up getting much physically out of South America and into the world channels until late, sometimes in January if you get real lucky with the plantings. We haven't had that occur in a while. I'd say it's going to mid-February to mid first of March is when the big pushes will be on. And right now, at least, it looks like that they're still going to need some stuff out here. And so I think that's why this market's been a little jumpy. We had some rumors that China was buying some U.S. beans, but they really were sneaking into Argentina and kind of cleaning out the last of the beans that were there. And the same thing in Uruguay. So, they're definitely scrambling to try to come up with some supplies at this point. There was even some talk that there was going to be some low-level meetings happening here this week. I haven't seen anything specific about anything off of that showing up. And so that's another feature in here that is im- is going to continue to be a factor in here at this point. You know, with nothing on the board, that really is pretty interesting as to the how long China can kind of exist without getting some additional supplies lined up for them mid to late harvest in the U.S. here. To bridge themselves back to the South American supplies that we just mentioned would be um, late February, March type situation in big volumes at this point. So, you know, that's definitely a factor out here that's going to continue to rumble along in here in the markets. Was demand side things. One thing that did pop up that was interesting. We had this big commitment from the U.S. here to expand our uh, biodiesel scenarios out there, and so that was a positive for the bean oil and all that kind of stuff. Well, there seems to be some big rumblings going on in Brazil here that they're going to be expanding out over the next couple of years on their corn ethanol scenarios. So they're going to be competitive in the world markets, I suspect, on ethanol. If even half of the production that they're projecting right now is talking about a 50% increase on ethanol
And there
production.
were also the news that consumer resilience is still strong in the US, while there is very significant meat demand, according to the latest report.
Yes, yeah, there was things rumbling around here uh, about Brazilians at this point. Uh, right now, with the 50% tariff on Brazilian, well, it's actually on coffee and meats and stuff like that. But they have been supplying a lot of lower level basic beef into the U.S. for various operations for years, and it's coming off of grass-fed situations in Brazil. Well, there was talk that Mexico was involved with making purchases, as you kind of brought up on that this earlier here in our conversations, and then turning around and marketing it to the U.S. because of major differences in tariffs. At this point, you know, we're talking 50% on things like that from Brazil, and now it's 10 or 15% at the most, and it might even be right now. We seem to be in a very modest relationship on tariffs with Mexico in the short term. That definitely is a factor in here because the fact that the U.S. Meat demand and basically in your counter out there, it's still very high prices. And yeah, we had some Labor Day specials at $8, $9 for T-bones here on the local groceries, but they're not the high quality ones that people like to eat. So it'll be interesting. This meat scenario here in the U.S. Unfortunately, right now at least, it's going to take 18 months to, you know, maybe 24 to get anything back and any additional supplies. So we're a long ways from having lower meat prices in the U.S. Because of it.
Yeah, since you mentioned the Labor Day, we will have a shorter week for the markets next week. What do you expect in terms of trading?
Well, to some extent, I'm kind of optimistic we would be a little higher next week, but right at this point, the, the temperatures in the Midwest are not really a big factor, but the ongoing dryness, we've got a little bit of pop here uh, on some overnight or over the high pressure scenarios there on that, giving us a little rain, but quarter inch, half inch isn't exciting, and it's not getting very deep in the eastern corn belt. And that same forecast is again for tomorrow, and then we really definitely could use some rain here. Because I think the one thing interesting here with this kind of issues we've got going on here with the disease issues and that uh, rain is going to help stabilize things more than cooler temperatures. I think dryness out there and that could have impact on our yields. Now, the one thing to keep in mind, I'm optimistic about a smaller, or lower, I should say, U.S. corn yield. But I'm not looking for much. If I get lucky, and I would be impressed if we saw a number 184 and a half or less. Uh, you're talking about 4 bushels off the USDA's number. That's going to be encouraging, but definitely to make this thing dynamically and bullish on stuff in the corn, we need to get back into the low 180s here. This new operation people out there, they're 179 and a half is impressive, but I don't know. I don't sense the USDA is going to make those kind of adjustments in one fell swoop here on things as we go along.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, well, we'll take another whack at it on next week, but I kind of feel like that we're just going to be bumping along here waiting for the USDA's numbers on September 12th at this point. We've got some good demand numbers, by the way, that could come out on Tuesday. Some very good crush numbers at 207, 208 million on, which is keeping things strong on those soybean demand numbers that we'll have for the coming month. And the corn ethanol number is probably going to be 10 million higher than last month's number at 455 million. So I think our demand side numbers in September here will be pretty good here domestically. So the biggest thing is can we get any optimism about China showing up? And that's going to be an interesting situation for us.
All right. We'll see.
Have a good
Bye.
way. Have a good